today we're going to be talking about our characters. So I want you to just think about your main character, and that's who you're going to be writing about today. So here, we're going to talk about character traits. You have outside traits and you have inside traits. It's really important that you know your character inside and out. You should know your character so well that you should know what they're carrying inside of their pockets, right? Because that kind of tells you a little bit about somebody, maybe what's in their backpack, maybe what's in their locker. A really good thing to do is to kind of think about what is in their room. So if you've made up your character or not, think about who your character is and think about their room. Now, you may have not ever thought about your character's room before, especially if you've made them up, but think about their room and think about the items that are inside of their room. I usually would think about 10 items, but that's a lot for us today. So maybe think about 2 or 3 random items that would usually be overlooked by anybody just coming into their room. For example, let's think if they have a guitar in their room, and if it's collecting a whole lot of dust. What does that tell you about this character? Okay, that can tell you a whole lot. It can tell you that maybe one day they had an interest in playing guitar, but they haven't had time to pick it up in a long time, or they've lost interest, right? Maybe let's think about, let's say they have a whole bunch of books on their bookshelf about, I don't know, motocross, but the binding looks like it hasn't even been opened. So maybe they had an interest at one point on maybe learning about how to ride motocross, but then they never opened the books, they lost interest, right? You can also see things like, let's say they have a book of Harry Potter sitting on their desk, and the cover, it's kind of torn and tattered. A lot of the pages are a little bit frayed. Maybe there's some folding pieces. Maybe there's a stain, right? Maybe it doesn't close just right. Maybe the binding on that book is just like really worn. This tells you something about that character. This tells you that they really enjoy this book. They spend a lot of time on this book, right? Or maybe instead of Harry Potter, maybe it's their diary, right? So that shows that they write in it every single day. Where when I was little, I had a diary, but I never even opened it. I never wrote in it. So that could say that I'm not a big writer. That could say that I didn't really care to write about things that happened in my day. I just kind of lived through my day. So think about this. We need to really build up our characters. And a really easy way to start is to think about, what do they look like, right? That's pretty easy. What kind of clothes do they wear? What's their smile look like? Do they have freckles? Are they big? Are they tall? Are they small? Maybe being really small has a reason for the way that they act, right? So think about on the outside. This is what we see. So just when I look at you, what do I see, okay? Then on the inside, these are your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. This is just as important, or even maybe more important, than the outside traits, okay? So this is based on what you think. These are your feelings, your actions. So it's important to know, what are they doing? Why are they doing it, okay? These are 2 things I'm going to post for you, and you don't have to fill these out, but it might help you with your brainstorming. So there's a girl and a boy. They're exactly the same information, just one's a girl, one's a boy, depending on who your character is. So it says, what are they thinking? What are they feeling, right? What can the characters do and say? So it's kind of helping you brainstorm a little bit about your character. All right, this is a big one. This is really important. So a lot of times when people are writing a main character, they have like this perfect, flawless main character, right? Something happens, it's never the main character's fault. The main character is always helpful and nice and kind. But is that realistic? Is that real? It's not really real. It's important that your main character has some faults as well, some flaws. So some imperfections. Now, we're not saying to make your main character a bad guy, or we're not trying to, go over the deep end here, but it's important that you have a couple things that show that this is a real person, right? It kind of helps us relate when somebody has flaws, because we all have flaws. And sometimes that helps make us special, right? So faults and weaknesses are important ingredients in making a character believable. If your main character is flawless, it's harder for the reader to relate to him or her. Okay, so that's really important. Make sure that you maybe have some flaws of your character. All right. I want you to also start with an action. I want you to be thinking about what these characters are doing and then play the why game. I'm sure if you have siblings, you know the why game. Around, I don't know, 2, they kind of hit this why game where everything they want to know why. So maybe at the beginning of the year, I went to pick Brantley up over at the preschool, and this little girl in his class came up to me, and I had a bag of apple slices. And she said, "What do you have?" And I said, "Apple slices." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I get hungry on my way home." And then she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because my lunch is at 11, so I haven't eaten in a long time." And then she said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because that's when the 4th graders eat, so that's when I eat." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I guess that's what the principal decided." And then she said, "Why?" And it just kept going. It never, ever, ever stopped. So I want you to think about that in your writing as well. I feel like a lot of you are going to just sit down and you're just going to write really fast, and in 5 minutes you're going to be done. That defeats the purpose, okay? Today, all you're doing is focusing on your main character. You only have 3 subjects every day, so I want you to take your time. Your character is what's going to really build and make your paper good, okay? So I really want you to take time, and I want you to think. It's okay if you go through and you write it, but I want you to then go back through and play the why game, because I'm going to play the why game with you. And as I'm reading about your character, and you don't describe them well enough, I'm going to ask you why. So if you go ahead and you just find some action words, that could help you continue to play the why game. So let's say that my character is Brantley, okay? So I could say, Brantley was very angry. Well, that's not very great, right? I'm going to ask why. So then I could say, Brantley was very angry because he didn't like the way I cut his French toast. This is true. That's what happened this morning. And then we could say why, right? Well, I usually cut his French toast in 12 pieces, and today I cut them in 9 pieces. I didn't even think about how I was cutting it. Okay, so we can keep playing the why game. So Brantley was really upset this morning because he didn't like the way his French toast was cut, because his mom usually cuts it into more pieces. When she asked how she could fix how he was angry, he said, "You can cut it in more pieces." So she did. And then he was still angry. So do you see, I can then keep asking why. Why was Brantley still angry? Well, because Mrs. Jensen put syrup on top of his French toast, and he likes it on the side of his French toast so he can dip it. Then you can keep asking why. Well, why does he like it like that? Well, the first time he had French toast, that's the way he ate it. So now that's the way he always likes it. So you can keep asking why. You can keep building and building and building and building. Okay? So if I were you, after you write about your character, I'd go back through and I'd play this game with yourself. Why did my character do that? And then add a little bit more. I'm going to show you an example here. Okay, so this is the why game, all right? Eddie throws a rock. So let's say your main character is Eddie, and your sentence is Eddie throws a rock. Well, that's not that great, right? Why? Why did he throw the rock? So I'm finding an action word, he throws, and I'm asking myself, why? Why does he throw the rock? Eddie wanted to break the window of the old factory. Okay, sure, you can end there, but I could ask you why, right? Why did he want to break the windows on the old factory? He's so mad at his parents, and he's trying to let out his frustration. Okay, so we know that he's mad at his parents. Do you see what I'm going to ask you? Why? Why is he mad at his parents? Eddie's parents just told him they are moving to Arizona. Eddie doesn't want to move to Arizona. Okay, so now I know why he's frustrated. He's frustrated because he doesn't want to move to Arizona. Sorry, I think I said Australia. He doesn't want to move to Arizona. Could we again ask why? Why doesn't he want to move to Arizona? Well, Eddie's mom just got promoted, and Eddie doesn't want to leave his friends. That makes sense, right? That makes a lot of sense. You could technically continue to keep playing this why game, but I think that really sums it up. So what you would then do is you would just put all of that into your paragraph. Eddie throws a rock because he wanted to break the window of an old factory. Because he's so mad at his parents about moving to Arizona when all he wants to do is stay here with his friends? Do you see how we took one sentence and then we ended up using all of this to build it and make it even better? Right? And if that's a whole lot, if you don't really like where that's going, you could just make it a little bit shorter. Eddie throws a rock because he was trying to get out his frustration about moving to Arizona, which he doesn't want to do because he'll miss his friends. Right? So you can kind of like piece it together a little differently like puzzles, and you can kind of shorten it up a little bit. But I want you to really do a good job. Okay? I cannot stress that enough. I don't want you to just sit down and type real quick about your character. I really want you to pay attention to what you're writing. I want you to read it when you're done, and I want you to ask yourself, is this good enough? Should I spend more time on this? Did I play the Y game? Did I play the Y game more than one time, right? So really, really, really take some time. So today, you're doing one character. You're writing about one main character. I'd really like you to do about 2 paragraphs, so about 10 sentences, and I want them to be really good sentences. We shouldn't see any sentences like, Eddie throws a rock. We should see really good, in-depth sentences to really help understand your character, okay? I've given you a little tidbits of information to help you get brainstorming on your character. You can play the Y game. You can think about some things in their room that might show us a little bit more about their character. You can describe what they look like on the outside, and make sure if you're telling us what they look like on the outside, it's descriptive, right? Don't just say, she is a girl. Tell us like, she's a girl with brown curly hair who likes to wear sandals with no backs or something. You know, like tell us a little bit about her so we can see her, okay? We're going to talk more about sensory language in the next few weeks. But this is kind of a little head start, all right? So again, you're going to do about 2 paragraphs only on your main character so that you can really understand who your main character is, and I can too, okay? Good luck.